My name is Erica Long. I'm 32 years old. 3 months ago, I sold the first house my husband Daniel and I ever bought together in Portland, Oregon. That old Victorian wasn't just wood and paint. It was where Daniel carried me across the threshold on our wedding night. It was where our daughter, Alice, took her first wobbly steps across the creaky living room floor. But I let it go, because sometimes protecting your child costs more than money. It costs your roots. 2 weeks before my sister Amelia's wedding, I still believed everything would work itself out. I was wrong. It was a Sunday afternoon when I drove from our home in Portland to my parents' house in Woodburn. The drive usually felt routine. That day, it felt like a summons. My mom, Margaret, had insisted I come. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Amelia's car and Audrey's. That meant this wasn't casual. Inside, the house buzzed with excitement. My father, Robert, stood near the window with coffee in hand. My mother sat upright in her armchair, glowing. Audrey was half paying attention behind her laptop. Amelia stood up the second she saw me. "Now that Erica's here," she announced dramatically, "I can finally share the news." I already knew. She was practically vibrating. "David and I are getting married in 2 weeks." Applause, hugging, cheers. And then, "Erica, I need to ask you something." My stomach tightened. Whenever Amelia started a sentence like that, it meant obligation disguised as love. She sat beside me. "I know Michael owns the Golden Oak," she began carefully. "David and I want our reception there." I nodded slowly. "And could you help us book it? Maybe get us a family discount?" Before I could respond, my mother chimed in. "Michael adores you. I'm sure he'd do it." My father added, 30% off isn't unreasonable." 30%. They had already decided what my friendship was worth. I felt cornered, but I agreed. Because at that moment, I still believed helping meant harmony. That night, after Daniel and Alice were asleep, I sat in my study and called Michael. He didn't hesitate. "Of course I'll host it," he said warmly. Then he paused. 40% off, wedding gift, 40. He was more generous than they deserved. But generosity comes with weight. The next morning, I called Amelia. She screamed with excitement. But just as I was about to hang up, her voice shifted. "There's one more thing." I closed my eyes. She and David were struggling financially. Could I front the entire reception cost? $15,000 to $20,000. Cold silence filled the air between us. I reminded her gently about the $10,000 she borrowed 2 years ago for that can't-miss crypto investment, the one she never repaid. Her voice hardened instantly. "This is different. It's my wedding," I answered calmly. "My money supports my husband and my daughter. I can't be the family bank." She hung up. The next day, my parents and Amelia showed up at my house, unannounced. Margaret looked disappointed. Robert looked furious. "You refused to help your sister," my father said sharply. "I didn't refuse," I replied evenly. "I asked for accountability," Amelia cried. Mom called me selfish. That word cut deeper than I expected. But I didn't budge. "If you want the money, we write a loan agreement." They stared at me like I'd committed betrayal. "What kind of family signs contracts?" my mother whispered. "The kind that pays back what they borrow," I answered quietly. In the end, Amelia agreed. $20,000, 2 years, no interest. When she handed me the signed paper 2 days later, her eyes were cold. "This changes things," she muttered. I transferred the money to Michael. The reception was secured. Everything looked settled. But that night, as I stood in Alice's doorway watching her sleep, her tiny fingers curled around her stuffed rabbit, a strange unease crawled over me. It wasn't about money. It was something else, something uglier. And I should have known, because a week later, my mother sent a message that changed everything. "Erica, we voted. Alice will stay home on Amelia's wedding day." And in that moment, I understood the money had never been the real issue. I reread the text 3 times. We voted. Alice will stay home. Voted. Like my 5-year-old daughter was a controversial proposal. My hands started shaking. I typed back immediately. "Why?" The response came almost instantly. "You know why." Cold, calculated. I didn't text again. I called. My mother picked up on the 4th ring. "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "explain to me why my daughter isn't welcome at her own aunt's wedding." There was a pause. Then she exhaled like I was the unreasonable one. "Erica, Alice is different. We just don't want guests feeling uncomfortable." Uncomfortable. My chest tightened. Alice was born with a rare birthmark condition that covered one side of her face in swirling dark patches. To me, they looked like brush strokes, like something artistic, unique. To my family, apparently they were a problem. "Did you just say my daughter makes people uncomfortable?" I asked, my voice dropping into something dangerous. "This is Amelia's special day," she replied firmly. "She wants everything perfect." Perfect. I let out a bitter laugh. "And my child doesn't fit that picture?" Silence. Then, It's better for Alice, too. She won't have to deal with staring. I ended the call before I said something I couldn't take back. I sat in my office staring at the wall. Alice was at preschool, probably painting, or building towers, or laughing the way she always did when Daniel tickled her. How do you tell a 5-year-old she's been voted out of her own family? 5 minutes later, I called Daniel. He answered on the first ring. What's wrong? I told him everything. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, there was a heavy silence on the line. Then his voice turned cold. They said that about our daughter? Yes. And they expect us to attend? Yes. I could hear him inhale slowly, controlling his anger. They don't get to do that, he said quietly. No one gets to do that. His calm gave me strength. But I needed to hear it from everyone. Maybe, just maybe, someone would defend Alice. I called my father. This is Amelia's day, he said. Respect her wishes. Click. I called Amelia. She hesitated before speaking. It's a formal event, she said softly. I just want it to be perfect. Perfect doesn't include my daughter? I asked. Please don't make me feel guilty, she whispered. That was her answer. Finally, I called Audrey. She sighed like I was being dramatic. I get that you're upset, Erica, but this isn't about you. That was when it hit me. Every single one of them agreed. They didn't argue. They didn't hesitate. They voted against a child. That night, Daniel and I sat at the kitchen table long after Alice went to bed. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I won't let her feel rejected, Daniel said. Neither will I. We talked for hours. About pride, about boundaries, about what it means to be parents. And somewhere between the anger and the heartbreak, a plan formed. I picked up my phone, and I typed one short message to my mother. I agree. Her reply came within minutes. You're a good daughter, Erica. I stared at those words. For the first time in my life, I didn't want to be. The next call I made wasn't to my family. It was to Michael. He answered cheerfully. Erica, finalizing prep for Saturday. Everything's set. I need to cancel, I said. Silence. What happened? Instead of explaining, I sent him a screenshot of my mother's message. He didn't respond for a full 10 seconds. Then, you're serious? Yes. They banned Alice? Yes. His voice changed. Steady, sharp. Say the word, I'll cancel it myself. No, I replied. I'll take responsibility. There was a pause. Then he said quietly, You're doing the right thing. I'll forfeit the deposit, I added. Don't worry about the money, he said immediately. The call ended. And just like that, the reception was gone. 2 days later, we boarded a plane to Maui. Alice thought it was magic. She squealed when we told her it was a surprise trip. On Saturday morning, the morning of Amelia's wedding, we were sitting on Wailea Beach. Alice was building a sandcastle near the shoreline, her laughter mixing with the waves. Daniel lay beside me under the sun. For the first time in days, my chest didn't hurt. Then my phone rang. Mom. I stepped away before answering. Her voice exploded through the speaker. What did you do to Amelia's wedding? I canceled the reception, I replied calmly. There are 80 guests here, she screamed. Amelia is humiliated. I watched Alice run from a wave, giggling. Then I said the words that had been building inside me for days. My daughter took a vote. Silence. So the wedding's off. I hung up, and I powered down my phone. Daniel looked at me carefully. Do you regret it? I watched Alice laugh under the Hawaiian sun. No, I said quietly. I only regret not choosing her sooner. But even as the ocean shimmered in front of us, I knew this wasn't over. And when we returned to Portland, there would be war waiting on our doorstep. 3 days later, we landed back in Portland. Alice wouldn't stop talking in the back seat. Mommy, did you see the turtle? And Daddy said I swam like a mermaid. Her joy filled the car. I almost wished we could just keep driving. Keep going. Never come back. But as we turned onto our street, my stomach dropped. 3 cars, parked in front of our house, waiting. Amelia's white Toyota, my parents' green Honda, Audrey's gray sedan. They were already standing on the porch when I pulled into the driveway, like an angry tribunal. Alice didn't notice. She was still hugging the stuffed bear Daniel bought her in Maui. I stepped out first. Amelia stormed forward. Do you even know what you've done? I opened Alice's door gently. Sweetheart, go inside with Daddy, okay? Daniel nodded and took her hand. But Amelia blocked the walkway. No, I'm not finished. Her eyes were red and swollen, mascara smudged, rage radiating off her like heat. 80 guests showed up to the Golden Oak, she shouted. 80! And I had to stand there and tell them my own sister canceled my reception. I looked at her steadily. You want to tell them why? My father stepped forward, face pale with anger. You embarrassed this family. My mother was crying. How could you be so cruel? Cruel. The word echoed. Audrey folded her arms. You destroyed the most important day of Amelia's life. I took a slow breath. And you tried to erase my daughter from it. Silence cracked the air. My father pointed a finger at me. It was the right decision. You acted like a child. That was it. That was the moment something inside me permanently shifted. You called excluding a 5-year-old the right decision? I asked quietly. Amelia's voice shook. I just wanted one perfect day. And my daughter ruins perfection? No one answered, because they didn't have to. Their silence had already spoken. Daniel reappeared at the doorway. Alice was safely inside. I stepped closer to them. No one, I said evenly, gets to decide that my daughter is too much, too different, or too inconvenient. My father scoffed. Calling the police on your own family now? I pulled out my phone. You have 3 minutes to leave my property. My mother gasped. You wouldn't. I dialed 911. That was enough. One by one, they retreated. Amelia glared at me like I had ruined her life. Maybe I had. But they had tried to shrink my child. And that was unforgivable. 2 days later, I sat alone in my home office. The house felt different. Quieter. Final. I opened my phone and typed a message to Amelia. Every word deliberate. You have 30 days to repay the $10,000 borrowed in 2022. If you fail to do so, I will involve legal counsel and you will be responsible for all fees. I pressed send. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt clear. That same afternoon, I requested a meeting with my company's CEO. Mr. Martin, I began, steady and professional, I'd like to transfer to our Los Angeles branch. He looked surprised. Why the sudden move? Family reasons, I replied. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. We've been looking for someone to lead the LA team. How soon can you relocate? As soon as possible. 3 days later, the official email arrived. Transfer approved. I contacted a real estate agent that same day. The Portland house, our first house, went on the market. Daniel and I stood in the empty living room weeks later, after the sale finalized. Alice ran her fingers along the wall where we once measured her height. Are we coming back? She asked innocently. Daniel knelt beside her. We're going somewhere new, sweetheart. I turned away before she could see the tears in my eyes. Leaving wasn't about escape. It was about protection. I canceled my phone number, changed our mailing address, cut every thread. Some bridges don't burn loudly. They just collapse quietly behind you. The night before we left Portland, Daniel wrapped his arms around me in the kitchen. Are you okay? I don't know, I admitted. You didn't lose them, he said gently. They chose this. Maybe. But the truth was harder. I didn't just lose family. I lost the illusion of them. And illusions are dangerous things to grieve. When we finally arrived in Los Angeles, it felt surreal. New streets, new neighbors, no history. No judgment. 3 months have passed since that day on Wailea Beach. 3 months since I chose my daughter over my blood. And in that time, everything changed. 3 months. That's how long it's been since I canceled my sister's wedding reception. 3 months since I chose my daughter over the people who raised me. I'm sitting in our small backyard in Los Angeles now. The air smells different here, warmer, lighter. The sun feels generous instead of harsh. Alice is running across the grass with 2 girls from next door. Her laughter floats through the air like wind chimes. No one stares at her here. No one whispers. No one votes. She is just Alice, a 5-year-old who runs too fast, laughs too loud, and insists on wearing mismatched socks because they're best friends. Daniel is grilling by the fence, glancing over at her every few seconds, the way he always does, protective without being obvious. I used to think family meant endurance. Now I think it means safety. The first week after we moved, Alice asked a question that nearly broke me. Mommy, does Grandma not like my face? The words were soft, careful. Children sense more than we realize. I knelt in front of her and held her cheeks gently. Grandma doesn't understand how special you are, I said, but that doesn't change how beautiful you are. She studied me seriously. Daddy says I'm one of a kind. You are, I whispered, and that's powerful. She smiled then, fully, freely. That was the moment I knew we'd done the right thing. Amelia never repaid the $10,000 within 30 days. Her only response was a short text. I can't believe you're threatening me over money after what you did. What I did? I forwarded the case to an attorney without replying. For once, I wasn't going to absorb the blame to keep the peace. My parents sent one long email. It said I had broken the family apart. Not a single sentence mentioned Alice. That told me everything I needed to know. I didn't respond. Sometimes silence is not weakness. It's closure. The Los Angeles office turned out to be the promotion I didn't know I needed. New team, new leadership, new perspective. Mr. Martin called me into his office 2 weeks after I started. You seem different, he observed. Different how? Clearer. I almost laughed. He wasn't wrong. When you stop bending yourself to fit into spaces that don't deserve you, you stand straighter. Some nights, Daniel still asks gently, any regrets? I always look toward Alice's bedroom before answering. She sleeps peacefully here. No more quiet stares at family gatherings. No more subtle comments about appearance. No more whispered votes. I regret not doing it sooner, I tell him. And I mean it. The truth is, protecting your child isn't dramatic in the moment. It's terrifying. It feels like cutting off a limb. It feels like betrayal. But what I've learned is this. Blood makes you related. Love makes you responsible. On Amelia's wedding day, I didn't cancel a reception. I canceled the illusion that my daughter needed to shrink herself to belong. And if I had to choose again, I'd choose her every single time. Now I want to ask you something. If your family voted to exclude your child from an important event, if they said her presence would make others uncomfortable, if they told you it was about perfection, what would you do? Would you swallow it to keep the peace? Or would you burn everything down to protect the one person who depends on you? I know not everyone agrees with what I did. Some say I overreacted. Some say I ruined my sister's day. But when I watch Alice run freely under this California sun, I know one thing for certain. Peace built on your child's humiliation isn't peace at all. It's surrender. And I refuse to surrender my daughter,